It was a late night in April 2010. The Florida Highway Patrol says Marine Captain Scott Seipel had been drinking heavily and was driving on the wrong side of a Tampa interstate. Pedro Martinez and his wife Carmen were on their way home that evening when Seipel plowed right into them. Pedro Martinez was killed. But Seipel's attorney argues that his client is a victim too. Seipel suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Defense attorney John Fitzgibbons says on the night of the crash, Seipel blacked out and thought he was back on military deployment. Seipel is a Mobile native. He graduated from Murphy High School and soon became a decorated combat veteran who served tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. He witnessed numerous horrific scenes and had a number of close calls with death. Despite showing symptoms of PTSD, the military found Seipel fit for duty, and then everything came to a halt with the death of Pedro Martinez. The Marine Corps soon launched an investigation. In these military documents obtained from the Associated Press, Colonel John Crook wrote, "This reveals a disturbing vulnerability in the support we provide our combat veterans suffering the invisible wounds of PTSD." The investigation also found that proper PTSD treatment could have prevented Seipel's accident. Neither Seipel's attorney nor his family wanted to comment for our story, but we wanted to find out if the government is falling short in treating our heroes who live with PTSD. The National Library of Medicine says PTSD can occur after any traumatic event. PTSD can constantly haunt the sufferer. Many victims become emotionally withdrawn or irritable. Some frequently relive their horrifying experiences.
I don't think we need to look at any of our veterans as victims so much as heroes that have sacrificed for their country. And that's just one way they've sacrificed.
Dr. Joe Law is a former veteran counselor. He says up until the late 20th century, PTSD was not fully understood. Law says treatment methods are continually improving, but sadly, some veterans have already paid a dear price.
Well, he always seemed to be the guy that everybody loved.
Carrie Fugit's husband, Jimmy Cleve Kinsey, grew up in Foley and later became a mortarman in the Marine Corps. On April 1st, 2006, during his second tour of duty, Cleve's Humvee was hit by an IED.
At that time, I saw it and I was just tensed up, and next thing I know, boom, truck's over on the side, my foot stuck in between the steering wheel and the dashboard. I'm hanging upside down by my foot.
Kinsey spoke to Fox 10 News after his accident. His leg was mangled and shattered, but he was optimistic about his recovery.
Oh, I'll be back to 100%. It's just gonna take nothing but time.
Time came, but recovery didn't. Over the next year, doctors tried to save the leg, but it was soon amputated. While undergoing treatment, Fugit says her husband showed signs of PTSD.
He was prescribed all of these meds, and after a while he started to become addicted to them.
Fugit says military doctors were primarily concerned with treating his leg before addressing his PTSD. And over time, she says, his PTSD symptoms got worse.
He would get really angry. He was arrested for domestic violence one night. There was a gun involved. We tried to tell doctors, and I just don't feel like people didn't take us very seriously at that point.
She says Kinsey became more depressed and more abusive. Eventually, he went into PTSD therapy.
He said that he had a list of things that he wanted to do to fix all of the damage that he had done. And I feel like he was starting to understand his PTSD a little bit better.
Cleve Kinsey died on April 20th, 2010. The death certificate says he passed away from a prescription drug overdose.
I like to think that he was improving and that he sort of died trying.
Fugit does not think her husband got the help he needed.
I think that they tried the best that they could, but I think it was too little too late.
A White House report says more than 2 million service members have been deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan since 2001. And service members are sent on an average of 2 deployments. each about 12 to 15 months in average length. A report by the nonpartisan RAND Corporation, which conducts studies for the government, found approximately 1 in 5 Iraq and Afghanistan veterans suffer from PTSD. And researchers say long deployment times contribute to the development of this illness.
There is still a stigma for some people in the military about seeking any kind of counseling or guidance. Usually it's a fear of losing one's security clearance.
But the doctor warns that as the Middle East conflicts come to a close, the military could soon reduce its force, and we'll see more people with PTSD.
A lot of those people will join the unemployment line, and so they won't be able to get military care, and they'll need to get care elsewhere. So I think there will be a strain on our resources.
Dr. Law says our government is making great strides at treating PTSD, but more needs to be done.
They need to have more counselors, more therapists, more mental health people.
Fugit thinks the military needs to be more proactive. Perhaps it could have saved her husband.
You get treated for it immediately. You don't sit around and wait for it to get worse, wait for your family to fall apart, or wait for you to, kill yourself.
Captain Scott Seipel will have a DUI manslaughter trial this month. And sadly, it's too late to help Cleve Kinsey. But perhaps their stories can serve as a lesson. These stories underscore the fact that PTSD is not something veterans should be ashamed of sharing. Instead, it should be viewed as a serious condition, a condition that needs more medical research and treatment.